Good morning, afternoon, this kind of in between time. Thanks everyone for joining us today, this or watching the recording of this, because I know there was a lot of interest in this call. I've got Johnny Poulsen. Did I pronounce your last name right? I should have asked him.
Thank you.
He's actually the CEO and one of the co-founders of Income Lab. So I know we've talked a little bit about this last week at the IPW event, but I figured getting a demo directly from the source would be better for everybody. This is going to be a software we'll have on the platform already approved if you're an IAR, and it's going to kind of fit a different need. So I'll have Johnny present, then we'll kind of go over some details at the end on pricing and how do we get you signed up. So with that, Johnny, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Let's give it just a minute or two. I can see people are still coming in fast and furious. So.
27 attendees that quick is pretty good because we've got about 100 advisors on the platform right now.
That's great attendance. And so, Matt, you're in Atlanta, but your advisors are all over?
All over the country. We've got from Hawaii to Jersey.
So whoever's in Hawaii, I want to come and meet with you.
He might actually be on. We'll see. But yeah, so they're all over the country, mix of IARs and RIAs that have a selling agreement with us. Software is a big piece for a lot of these guys. So I think that this is a good opportunity to showcase what you guys can do.
Well, good morning, everyone. Johnny Poulsen, as Mike just said, I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Income Lab, live in Denver, Colorado, which is where we headquartered. You probably figured out by now that that's not where I grew up, so let's get that out of the way. Grew up a little east of Mike in Atlanta, that's in a little kingdom up northeast of Atlanta called Denmark, so that's where the accent is from. But I've been here for 25 years, which sort of dates myself. Co-founded Income Lab with Justin Fitzpatrick. Justin is sort of worth noticing. He is kind of unique to our industry. So Justin is a former academic, grew up in Michigan, but got his PhD at MIT, taught for 7 years, taught in London at MIT, Harvard, and UCLA. And what we do at Income Lab is really seated in research he has done specifically into research done on retirement income planning, as well as software solutions available. And as I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, there are some really smart people that can get really nerdy when it comes to retirement income planning, right? People like Bill Sharp from Stanford kind of came out of retirement and wrote literally a manifesto on retirement. And I highly recommend not reading it because it's heavy reading. Or you have Merton from MIT is actually giving retirement income lessons at MIT. Of course, practitioners like Michael Kitces as well. But it is really sad when you see fundamentally sound research that can help people live better lives in retirement, yet it's not available on a software platform. So we set out to bridge that gap. But I guess I can only get feedback from you, Mike, but I wanted to share it. Has any of you guys read the book Die with Zero? Mike, have you heard about it?
Actually, Thomas Zebley just told me to listen to that podcast. So I heard about it recently.
Got it. Good. And yeah, I would say if any of you guys are in the realm of retirement income planning, I highly recommend it. Let me give you sort of a brief summary. So it's by Bill Perkins, but just Google Die with Zero and it'll pop up. And so Bill starts out by defining sort of life itself. And he would argue, so Mike, I'm going to use you as the proxy. He would argue, Mike, that your life could be defined as the total sum of all the experiences you've had. And attached to every single one of those experiences are these memory dividends. And for me, when I saw that, I immediately thought about when my wife turned 40. We decided to check off a bucket list item. We flew down to Peru to hike the old Inca Trail into Machu Picchu. It's a 4-day, 3-night hike through mountains and cloud forest. It was unbelievable. The food, the people, the nature, and of course, the history. It was one of these life-defining experiences. And if you take that to retirement and sort of that same concept specifically into the baby boomers are now 60 to 78 in America. And, you know, for them, retirement is not just a topic, it's a critical conversation at that age. And we've heard about this intergenerational wealth transfers of the baby boomers. There's a lot of different numbers that floats around out there, you know, from about 80 to $100 trillion, an amount that we've never seen before. But the vast majority of that money is actually controlled with people that have 3 million or less. And if you are in your 60s and you have $3 million or less, the first thing you think about is not an estate plan. It is, how can I live the best life possible given the resources are available and the time I've left? And I think it's sort of a journey that we as advisors, or you as an advisor, can really get behind. If you think about driving to work in the morning and your job is to help people live the best possible life they can in retirement, that's kind of a noble cause and something that's easy to get passionate about. And that's really what Income Lab is all about. But let me share my screen with you and let's have a conversation around what we do at Income Lab. Mike, can you see my
I'll jump
screen?
in too. I don't know if anyone can raise hand or put questions in the chat or anything, but if that's all locked, feel free to just shoot me an email. And then that way, if there are questions, Johnny, we can address them. But yes, I can see your screen right now.
So what you see here is sort of our main dashboard at Income Lab. And we're certainly a quant shop with the MIT team, but we fundamentally believe that software should be easy to use, easy for you to understand, and most importantly, easy for you to explain to your clients. We believe this is the sort of information your clients would want on a regular basis. So through integrations, what is our updated portfolio balances? Most softwares will ask you, how much would you like to spend? And research on the topic is pretty clear. That's not what people want to be asked. They want to know from you, the advisor, what can we afford to spend? Not just based on your portfolio, but based on everything in their life. Social Security, this family has a rental property and so on. What is our retirement paycheck? And of course, you don't need to spend all of your paycheck, just as you don't need to spend your entire paycheck during your working years. But that is fundamentally what people want to know. And this is where we are massively different. So most planning software today will come out with one piece of data, a single point, which is what's my probability of success. First off, retirement is not binary. It's not a world where people either succeed or fail. It's a world where people have different experiences and where we adjust. And that's the key piece. Probability of success mathematically assume that you will never make an adjustment to the plan, which is completely unrealistic. Of course, you're going to adjust as the world around us changes. We call these guardrails. So the green is the upper guardrail, the red is the lower guardrail. And you can see here, if that portfolio call, drops from call in 2.2 to 1.7, well, it's time to tap the brake a little bit. In dollar terms, by $700 from 11.5 to 10.8. Completely different conversation. At this point, Income Lab is actually being used as part of the curriculum at a lot of the universities around America. If some of you guys are in the New York area, both NYU and Columbia University uses Income Lab, and they're firmly behind it. I just spoke this week to one of the professors we work with at Columbia. His name is Mike Kofakota. Mike has his own RIA where he used to use eMoney. He's now using Income Lab. And he will tell you it has profoundly changed his client conversations. And when I spoke to him this week, he said, particularly last month, it was important. He said he had retirees that were starting to call him and say, are we going to be okay? Which is a very human question when the markets are volatile like we saw last month. And he said, Johnny, the answer simply could not be, well, your probability of success went from 90 to 75, and it shouldn't be, well, let's just stay calm, let's weather this, we'll be okay, right? That does not make people feel safer. It doesn't help them sleep better at night. And he said, at least at the time, none of his clients were even close to the lower guardrail, right? So you'd already set these expectations, and none of them were close to the lower guardrail. Matter of fact, most of them were far away. But of course, at the time, he didn't have a crystal ball. He didn't know what the market was going to do and that we were going to recover. So as he said, it kind of helped him take the conversation to the next level and say, if this were to get worse and your portfolio drops down and hit the lower guardrail, this is what we're going to talk about, spending $700 less a month, which is about a 4% adjustment to their income and something people understand. And he said when he spoke to us, you could just see the stress in the room come down. People like, oh, that's right. I forgot about the guardrails. And yeah, that's a lot less scary than we thought it would be. And if you really think about it, a retirement income conversation should never be a pass-fail conversation. It should be a conversation around the clear trade-off between how much you spend today, the likelihood you would have to adjust, and the dollar impact to your daily life of those adjustments. You can sort of see the bookends to the guardrails here. Maybe your clients are more conservative. They would like to spend less, in this case, $15,000 a month, being closer to getting a pay raise, close to the upper guardrail, but far away from the lower guardrail. Their portfolio would have to drop by more than $900,000 for them to get a 5% adjustment to their income. Maybe they're more like me, thinking more of the die with zero, wanted to create some of these memory dividends, and want to spend more, in this particular case, $6,100 more a month. And so you get the benefit of that, creating those memory dividends. However, you are closer to the lower guardrail, so it's more likely you would have to adjust. There's no right or wrong. But more importantly, this makes sense to clients. If I spend less today, I'm less likely to get a phone call from my advisor telling me to tap the brake. Vice versa, if I spend more today, I get to benefit from that. But yeah, it is more likely I would have to adjust. Now, the next piece is quite personal to me. So before going on this journey and founding Income Lab, my wife and I were quite fortunate and had an opportunity to think about early retirement. And when you think about early retirement, the first thing you do is you get a financial plan by an advisor like yourself. And so we got in Money Guide Pro, which is one of the most used financial planning tools in America today. And I remember it vividly, because once you get a plan like that, it gets personal. So we got an 89% probability of success. And what Money Guide will then do is they'll say, let's stress test it. Let's see what would happen if we were to run into a bear market. And the way they do that is they put your portfolio back to the global financial crisis of 2008, 2009, run your portfolio through those returns, and then run a Monte Carlo analysis. In our case, 89 turned to 52. You can imagine how that made us feel. I will give you a little hint, not confident. Well, it's also wrong. So in 2023, about a year and a half ago, we launched what we believe is the first realistic stress test. So it actually won the largest advisor tech contest down in Atlanta, Mike, of all places. And the judge for that was Michael Kitz's. But it really helped people understand how their plan would have worked through some of the most iconic bear markets we've ever seen. So the default is the global financial crisis here. See, the US stock market is down by 50%, unemployment hit 10%. The light blue area here is what we planned to spend when we built the plan. The dark blue line is the actual income experience they would have had following this particular plan. And you can see that by February of 2009, the plan called for an adjustment of $800 from $16,800 to $16,000. Now, nobody likes to get a pay cut. I get it. But considering how bad it was, the market was down by 50%. I think most people would have felt relieved that that's all they had to do. And it was temporary. By 2015, the market had recovered. We can spend slightly above plan. By 2017, we're in a bull market, and we can actually spend significantly above plan. You can go down here and see the guardrail. The greens is the upper guardrail, the red is the lower guardrail, and the blue is the portfolio balance. And you can see again by February 2009, the portfolio drops down and hit the lower guardrail, hence the adjustment. You can check out different periods of times, the dot-com bubble, stagflation, the Great Depression. I mean, I would guess that none of your clients would remember the Great Depression, but it is a fun little history lesson. Most people have no idea how bad it was. Can you imagine the market being down by 85%, unemployment hitting 25%, and we're talking about seriously bad times. Yet, surprisingly, the adjustments would have been a lot less than what you would have thought. And this is a great opportunity for you to explain the benefits of diversification. This is a 60-40 portfolio. You can choose any portfolio and we'll simply model it out. But because you had a 60-40 portfolio, your bond portfolio actually did extremely well because we had a high level of deflation during the Great Depression, which meant your bond portfolio made up for a lot of the losses you saw in equities. Now, again, you can show a different plan that has 100% into equities, and you will see a very different picture. You also have the ability to test out different products in here. So I built a plan where we had a fixed index annuity in it, and you can see I put $500,000 into the fixed index annuity. We can see how that gives different experiences. And the problem with annuities, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, is it has a lot of jargon in there. You have step-ups, you have high watermarks and all of that. What does that really mean to me as a retiree? What I want to know is how is it going to impact my income experience in retirement, right? And that is exactly what this does. You can see a very different income experience here. They never got a pay decrease. It was simply a good experience through one of the worst times we've ever seen, right? Market's down by 50%, and you can see the guardrails here. We never hit the lower guardrail. We got kind of close here, but we actually did not hit it. So, and you can walk through different periods of times, the Great Depression as well. You're going to see, yeah, we actually did get some decreases out here. Now, I got to remind you, this is the total portfolio, not just the annuity, right? So it's 2.2 million, of which 500 is in the annuity. Now, you can also do a comparison mode. So you can say, well, I want to compare the annuity plan to, the plan without the annuity. So you go in here, you select the regular plan, and you will see quite a difference here, right? The blue is the one with the annuity, the yellow is the one without the annuity. So clearly the annuity is doing its job here. It lowers really volatility on your income and give the clients a better income experience. Now, all of that said, most of you guys probably want to show how the annuity on itself would have worked out. So you go in here and you can show just the annuity component. So this is just the $500,000 that was in the annuity. Now, you'll see in this particular case, this is a fixed index annuity. I believe it's an Allianz annuity, but you can factor in any annuities here. You will see this particular annuity ran out of money, but that is the benefit of the annuity because you still have the guarantee that in this case can continue to grow and so on. And again, you can check out different periods of times here, the dot-com bubble, similar scenario. You actually ran out of money earlier here, right? Now, as I'm sure if you guys are in the annuity business, you will also have cases where it's a 1035 we're talking about. You have somebody, maybe they're coming in with the variable annuity, and you're looking at, could we do better by offering them a newer annuity in a more favorable pricing environment for annuities? So here I'm comparing it to probably the most sold variable annuity about a decade ago. So the variable annuity is the yellow line, the blue is the fixed index annuity. And if it is income you're looking for, clearly the fixed index annuity would be the better options here. Now you'll see the trade-off is the variable annuity did not run out of money, right? But you did generate a lot more income in the fixed index annuity. You can go in and see what we factor in on the annuity side here. So you go to the annuity tab here. This is where you do all the data entry. It's a fixed index annuity. You would probably put in the name of the company here, right? Allianz, Jackson National, whatever it may be. You can click on this little gear wheel here. This is generally how you go in and really get into the details. My internet is a little slower this morning, Mike. I hope we don't lose connection here, but I will log in immediately if that's the case.
We're good so far.
Yeah, you can see here, we can really get into the nitty gritty. What's the benefit base, the guaranteed income at that particular rate, when they start withdrawals and so on. You can see in this particular case, it's a roll up of 7%. This is, I believe the Allianz is the one where you're actually doing it's based on the actual asset return, not a high watermark, but you can factor in both. You can really get into advanced settings. Is it simple, compound, stackable, non-stackable? You can look at the crediting method here. It's a cap, and the cap is 4%. You can use the annuity for Roth conversions. We'll get into further than that. You can go in and really get into the pricing. This particular one is a fixed index annuity, so there's no fee on the annuity itself, but there is a write-up fee. And once we have all of that data, it's analytics, it's math, right? Now we can truly model out what the annuity would do for their particular situation. Now, the next piece here is really important. And if you're in the business where you're out trying to acquire new business, this is a massive opportunity. And it's an opportunity that is truly underserved today, and it has nothing to do with products, which makes it so much more attractive. And really the question people have, once we know what this retirement paycheck is, in this particular case, $11,400, the obvious next question is, Mike, where should I source that income from? What accounts? And to the account level, to optimize taxes throughout retirement, should we consider Roth conversions? If so, how? And by the way, this is all analytics, and computers are very good at running super complicated analytics here. So when you go out here to our tax lab, you simply click on it, and the software goes to work for you. Now it's running every single possible scenario for this particular family and everything that's unique to them. As you'll see, it'll take about 15, 20 seconds here because there's a lot of data crunching. And then it automatically gets to the optimal scenario for this particular family. You will see here, Roth conversions to the 32% federal income tax bracket works the best. We're going to get into exactly what that means. And then we compare it to what we see as the most commonly provided advice in America today. Let me actually take the different plan in here because this particular one is actually more attractive. Now, again, this is the type of advice that clients are hungry for and they don't get anywhere else. If you go to most of the big institutions in America today, they will simply say, well, for tax advice, you need to go and see your CPA. I mean, clearly your CPA doesn't know because CPAs only prepare taxes for this year. They can't really see how you should present yourself for the rest of your life to optimize tax market distribution planning. Again, Roth conversion to the 32% bracket to the most commonly provided, we compare to the most commonly provided advice in America today, which is take first from your taxable account, then tax deferred, and lastly tax-free. Projected savings per year in retirement of 11.2%, right? You're just comparing the two strategies. Total tax savings of $1.5 million, leading to more income for the clients, and actually it also increases the net legacy. We have a heat map here of all the different strategies we saw. Deeper green is better, right? So you'll see again, this is where you had the lowest tax rate throughout retirement here, the lowest amount of taxes, the most net income and legacy. Now, clients and prospects love this, in particular prospecting. I mean, this is where you get their attention. But it's clearly a trade-off, and we need to explain that to them, right? Like they need to be willing to pay more in taxes today, the large blue boxes here, to do the Roth conversions long-term to get their taxes under control here, versus the yellow boxes not doing planning today and seeing their taxes increase as they grow older and RMDs are going to go up. The other trade-off is simply time, right? If you want to spend more on taxes today to do these Roth conversions, you need to live long enough for that to make sense, and that's the break-even point. And if you're the type of advisor that really likes to get into the tables, there's a table associated with any of these graphs. You can then go and explore their tax situation in further details. Think of this as a year picker where you can click on any 1 year in the future to see what their situation is. Once you click on a year, you can go down here and you can see the breakdown between ordinary income on the left, long-term capital gains in the middle, and IRMA tax bracket here on the right. You can see what is factored in as well, and you'll see Income Lab gets very deep into the tax picture. FICA, ordinary income taxes, long-term capital gains, net investment income. Medicare IRMA, super important for retirees, yet overseen often. So that's Medicare Part B and D, state and local taxes. You'll see we're front-loading taxes. Medicare IRMA kicks in early, the light green here. And Medicare IRMA takes longer than taxes to get under control because there's a 2-year look-back provision for Medicare IRMA. But again, from a sort of sales perspective, this is really what prospects want to know. You can easily go in here and you can print it out, generate a report here. You can email it to people and print it out for them. But this will tell them what tax market distribution can do, but they wouldn't be able to do it without you. Then all of that goes into a much better client experience. Typically, we tend to print out these balance sheets, and unless you're a CPA, it doesn't exactly sing to your heart as a prospect, right? This allows you to really understand in a very easy way what your total situation is. You can get all the way to the account level. You can go down and see your asset allocation. You can see your annuities, everything directly from here. You can click here to get a complete one-pager of their entire financial situation, including detailed tax projections here. You can see the blue. I kind of look at this as this is how we're going to fund the retirement paycheck this year. You can see Beth has not filed for Social Security, but James has. They have a rental problem. You can hover over it. You can see up in the timeline how long they're going to do it. You can see, if you look at the timeline, Beth is planning to do consulting onto 2027. Where income is driven from. Projected income for this year, that includes Roth conversion. If you click on this, the software will tell you exactly where to take the Roth conversions from, the dollar amounts, as well as the destination for both spouses here. This is really a great place to have conversations with prospects and clients. And there's something freeing to them to be able to see everything. When we tend to have a plan, it's sort of this black box. What did Mike actually put in there? Does he have my Social Security? What about the rental income and so on? So this is total income here, including the Roth conversions. Total taxes for this year of $63,900. Now, I should have stated this up front. I'm clearly a little partial here. This is my baby. I think it's awesome. So bear with me for a second here. But this feature is really cool. You can go to that timeline. You can see when RMDs are kicking in, we're selling or we're done paying off our house, we're selling our vacation apartment. But you can also go to any year in the future here very easily to see what we project this to look like. And this is just where you can have really cool experiences with clients and prospects. I'm here in the year 2042, and it shows me where income is planned to come from in 2042. Both of them are now taking Social Security. They still have their rental property. Most of their portfolio income is now coming from the two Roth IRAs, projected income of $290,000. Look at their taxes, $3,150. Now, most people that you meet with has not done tax market distribution. I would venture to say pretty much none of them have. And you can easily go up here and you can show them their current plan with no tax market distribution planning. The software stays in the same year, so we're still in 2042. It'll show you under their current plan where they would take income from, projected income. But look at their taxes now. Not $3,150, but $92,100. Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, where do you want your money to go? To the US government or to you, right? That is really what the power of tax market distribution planning. What we hear from our advisors is their clients absolutely love this. This is easily, just go up here and you can print it out right here. You can also get clients access to the client portal, so clients can electronically, literally will land on this and they can go in and look at it and play around with it if you like to. It completely depends on how you want to handle it. You can set up the permissions here. Two more things I want to talk about here, and then we can open up for questions. If you think about the experience and think about my personal situation with my wife, what do you think would be more helpful for a soon-to-be retiree or retiree? Here's your 89% probability of success, or here's your retirement paycheck. Here's what will cause it to go up and down. And in dollar terms, how would that impact your life? Michael, I can see we have a question from Michael Owens here. Michael, can you hang on just a second? There's one more thing I would like to show first, and then we definitely will get into questions. Mike, can we all be adults here and promise not to talk about it? Because I'm actually going to show you a beta version of what Income Lab is about to launch. And I think this is really an exciting opportunity for you guys. So if you think about a retiree with $1 million to invest or $500,000 to invest or 1.5 million even, what is the cornerstone of their retirement? It's Social Security. Social Security is so important for the vast majority of retirees in America today. Yet the tools we have available are bad at best. And so we are going to launch on the 27th of this month a tool. I can't show you all of it. It's very much of a beta version, but you can kind of get to look into the lab here and see. It's actually available in beta, so you can use it in beta if you get on. But on the 27th, you're going to have something that looks a lot cooler. But here we have what we call our decision lab. The first sort of piece we have here is what we call, well, it's our Social Security calculator. And so if you are a married couple today and you want to file for Social Security, there's actually a little more than 9,000 different ways you can file for Social Security. So it gets quite complicated. But what we do here, this is a heat map, and it shows all of these different combinations. And it will automatically go to the month for both spouses. That's ideal. Now, when you go to most of the Social Security calculators in America today, they're basically going to say, Mike, you should file at age 70. Let's delay filing of Social Security. So let's look into this. And we have developed this with professors from Columbia as well as Maine University. And a lot of these plans, we're going to say, well, we want to be conservative with the life expectancy. So yeah, maybe our life expectancy is 82. That's about where a male my age with their life expectancy is. But we want to plan for a long life, right? So let's just put that in and we'll run the data and see what that would say. Well, yeah, you would have to file at age 70, right? Now, flash news to everybody. Life expectancy for most of your clients is not 95 or 100. And yes, we should plan for longevity risk, for sure, the risk of us living longer than expected. But there is another risk that's very real, and it's called mortality risk. And it is really a very old business. It's why we have life insurance, right? Sometimes people die younger than expected. My dad died at age 69. So clearly for him, it would have been a terrible idea to delay filing for Social Security, right? So we can go in and we can talk to clients here. We can show them this and we say, well, okay, let's be a little bit more realistic about their life expectancy. Let's say Beth is at 83 and James is actually, his family tends a little less than normal. So let's apply those changes and see how that changes. Well, quite dramatically, right? Now it's 65 for Beth, it's 68 for James here. So now the next piece, and this is quite obvious. If you go to the Social Security website today, it'll actually tell you that the Social Security Trust Fund project Social Security is to be cut by 23% by the year 2035. I don't know if that's going to happen at all, but we probably should at least test out and see what would happen if that's the case. So you go to the stress test here. So and then you can take any year, any percentage, but I'm just going to do exactly, and you can show your prospect and clients that this literally is what it says on the Social Security website. We apply that, James. Yeah, that's going to change it a little bit now. James is at 67. This is an obvious one. I think we can all agree, and every single client will understand this. $1 today is worth more than $1 8 years from now. Mike, nod your head if we can agree on that one, right?
Yes, we can.
So, what's our projected return on our portfolio? Well, let's just be conservative. Let's just say it's 5%, right? Because that is the opportunity cost. If I delay filing for Social Security, that means I got to take my retirement income somewhere else, which is an opportunity cost. So I'm going to be pretty conservative here and just apply the changes. Oh, wow. Now it doesn't say that we should file at age 70, right? It is fundamentally different. You can go down here and say, well, what are the filing dates are within 1.5%? In other words, it really wouldn't matter, where I file. Well, this is really the area where you should look to file. Fundamental different conversation. Now, the good news is most of your clients already want to, or your prospects, intuitively, they want to file early. Now you have the ability to show them all the analytics behind why for the vast majority of retirees in America or soon to be retirees, filing makes sense. It also, there's something we haven't even talked about yet, which is sequence of return risk, right? We know that most of the risk in retirement falls early on in retirement, and we can show that as well, which means the more you take out of your portfolio early in retirement, the more risk you take on. So by filing early, you lower the sequence of return risk, which all of that helps your clients to have a better experience in retirement. So with that said, I think, Mike, let's start taking the questions.
Let me promote you there real quick. So I used to do a lot with Social Security software prior to IPW, and that was back pre 2015 when there was a bunch of different options and weird filing strategies. Things got very simple. The fact that you have Social Security, when it can run out, interest rate, like all of that will give the advisors on this call a leg up on the competition, because I don't know any other software that really does anything like that.
I agree.
No, I was going to say that. So yes, you guys are doing a great job with that, because I haven't seen that before.
I'm a little partial, as I said, Mike, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is very much a beta version. It is going to look a lot cooler in 2 weeks. I could have taken you to a different portal and you will see some of the new graphs. It's going to have the break-even graph in here, so in other words, how long would you have to wait and so on. So there's going to be opportunity cost and all that sort of stuff. So Mike, let's see if there are some questions in here.
Let's see. Here's a good one. How long is the average person does it take to actually learn the intricacies of the software, and are there training videos?
Great question. So yes, we are high on training videos. I would say the learning curve is quite short, and it's just because it's a new software, so we really build it to be very intuitive. All of that to be said, I highly recommend that if you sign up for Income Lab, that you take us up on having an onboarding list. Like, you will be teamed up with a team member here at Income Lab, and they're here to help you. You can call them. We actually pick up the phone here. But I highly recommend you take at least 1 or 2 onboarding sessions where they can help you build your first plan, build the integrations. If you go into your first meeting, set up a meeting with the Income Lab team member before that, so you can kind of go over the plan and make sure you have everything right and you kind of feel comfortable presenting it. So the learning curve is very, very low, I would say. It's very intuitive. And also, it's fast to build these plans. A lot of people, if they use eMoney and Money Guide, they'll say, it takes us an hour, it takes us 2 hours to build a plan. Once you get comfortable eMoney or with Income Lab, we will typically say it takes 12, maybe even 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to build a plan. So it's very easy to use, very quick to build plans.
All right, so that was a good question. Next one is, are there more features planned for Decision Lab beyond Social Security? So what else you
Absolutely,
got for
yes.
Steve, Johnny?
Yeah, so you can see in short order, we're going to have, a sort of an investment model to come out. I don't like most of the investment models that are out there today, and I'll tell you why. So, if you live in a world of probability of success, pretty much without an exception, the more risk you take on, the more equity you have in your portfolio, the higher your probability of success. And even in the annuity space, oftentimes you will see that adding an annuity could actually lower your probability of success. What it doesn't show is what it does to the magnitude of failure, right? The annuity sets this floor on your income that you don't have with just an equity portfolio. So we're going to show you different portfolios and then the stress test next to them and show you, yeah, okay, you would have the ability to take more income if you have a very aggressive equity allocation and you don't have any protection on the downside, but it could also impact your experience if we were to go into a bear market. So we're going to launch that in really short order, and that's the investment strategy, I'm sorry. And then saving for retirement, this is just a very easy way to have a conversation with a person that's like 10, 15 years away from retirement. So, how much more do I need to save today to retire at age 62, age 65? If I save an additional $100 a day, how would that impact me later on, and so on? You're going to see more modules in here. We're probably going to have some Medicare models in there, long-term care. Again, that's really easy for us to do currently, but it's just going to help you, have better experiences, better conversations with your clients, and so on.
And so this leads to another good question too. So all these advisors are with Impact Wealth. So that investment strategy piece is big to them and me. But can you model actual portfolios to stress test, or just like an example 60-40 model?
Great question. Yeah, you can model any portfolio in here, right? So you can go in here and you will see you have a lot of different options in terms of asset allocation, right? You can have 100% in equities. You can even have some of the alternatives like commodities and all of that. Another place to see that is in LifeHop. So you go in here, you go to the account level. So we can look at our Charles Schwab. You can see that is a 60-40, but you can go in and change it to any of these allocations right here. And you can then stress test that, right? So if you have a different asset allocation, that's going to have different outcomes when you do the stress test and so on. And it's easy to have different plans, right? You can have as many plans here. It's easy just to build a new plan and change something, and you can then A/B test them. And in the stress test, so say I want to A/B test my demo plan here, right? So I go here to I can basically go in and just easily build a different plan. I go to the stress test here. And then I can do comparison mode here. I don't have one with 100% equities, but again, I had the one with an annuity, but you can easily build one where you have a different type of plan in here. You can go in, I'm going to do the index annuity again, but now I'm just A/B testing the two, right? So I can see how different asset allocation would have fared through the stress test, different product allocation. So again, using annuities or that sort of stuff.
Here, and I'll ask a question to follow up on that. So if we've got proprietary models that our advisors use, is there a way to get that populated inside of here instead of just saying 60?
Exactly. Yes, you can have your own model portfolio. Say you have 5 different model portfolios. You can have them in there, and then it's easy to pick them every time. You don't have to go in and recreate them. Absolutely.
Great. Next question was, can it show sequence of return risk? I know you mentioned it, but I think they just want to see it visually.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, sequence of return risk is really what you see in the stress test, right? So I want to make clear, we don't like probability of success as as an output. We think it's misleading. People is living a life where it's binary. Now, in Monte Carlo analysis is what's called a stochastic analysis. We like stochastic analysis. We actually have Monte Carlo under the hood here. We have a more sophisticated Monte Carlo called regime-based Monte Carlo. And we also have historical, which is a default. And we can get really nerdy about which one is better. We have articles around that. But sequence of return risk is really important, right? It's, what if we were to retire into a bad sequence? And that is really what the stress test, it helps you explain the sequence of return risk. It's just, actually the worst sequence we've ever seen for retirees was stagflation, right? So stagflation is the last time where we saw significant inflation, 14% in 1980, and interest rates peaked at 17%, right? And you had this combination where you in 73, 74 had a significant bear market, and combined that with inflation risk. This is where the 4% rule came out. And that is really what the whole sequence of return conversation came out. So you can show them that. And then you can go in and show, well, what can we do to mitigate that sort of risk? Like that's where we're going to say, well, let's add the annuity. Now, you will see in some of these cases, annuities can actually also get hurt if you have too much in the annuity, because annuities, for most parts, are not inflation protected, right? It's a nominal guarantee, not. But still, you would see here the plan with the annuity, yes, it did get a correction. Now, this is not just the annuity, it's the total portfolio here, right? But this is where you have the conversations with the clients around sequence of return risk. And sequence of return risk is clearly, again, and that's why the Social Security piece is so important, right? Like sequence of return risk shows us that the vast majority of risk in retirement is really the first 3 to 5 years in retirement, because if you retire into a bear market, now you're going to hit your portfolio harder. Now, if you take Social Security early, you can also mitigate some of that sequence of return risk. I know that got a little bit more nerdy than you probably wanted, Mike, or whoever asked the question.
No, that fits what I'm all about. So I'll just hit these last two questions real quick and then do pricing for everybody. But if you have other questions, reach out to me and I can connect with Johnny on it. But the last two are the reports able to be white labeled to our different firms? And are there any integration with other software like Orion or Redtail?
Great question. Yes, you can white label the reports to your firm 100%. That's easily done. So that one is yes. And yes, we have integrations with both Orion and Redtail. Those are actually two of our better integrations. So very easy to do. Those are high-end API integrations. So it's instantaneous. It's really easy to use those integrations. Going back to one of the earlier questions, how hard is it to learn how to use Income Lab? What's the learning curve? Please take us up on that onboarding call where we can help you get set up with those integrations. So if you're using Redtail, if you're using Orion, our team will help you just build those integrations, pull in the households, and now you're off to the races.
All right, last one is, can you show that implementation feature again?
Yeah.
And we're going to end with that, guys, just because we're running over and I keep asking more of these questions that are coming in. But
so implementation and implemented plan at Income Lab is something that is really special. And it is something that makes Income Lab very, very different than any other software. So pretty much every other software let me be a little firm here. Probability of success, and you could say this, if you meet with a client or prospect, they probably got a plan for somebody else, and it's probably based on probability of success. And here's a mathematical fact. Probability of success is not a plan, it's an observation. It's just an observation of your life today. It has no plan to make it change as the world around us change our lives, right? But it also doesn't do it. It doesn't actually do planning. So Income Lab will give you that observation, but it also helps you track the plan. And once you hit an implemented plan, every single month, Income Lab is taking in a ton of information. We rerun these plans. And if a plan is off track, we'll notify you. We'll tell you how it's off track. So it could be you hit a guardrail. We'll notify you, and now it's a good time to have a client conversation. These plans are far more likely to hit the upper guardrail than the lower guardrail. It's a 10-to-1 ratio for most plans, meaning you're 10 times more likely to have good news to share with your clients, right? So that's the implemented feature there. A couple other pieces it does. There are other platforms that can plan for Social Security, even though I would argue it's quite for the planning they do, but they don't do obvious things. So if you're planning to take Social Security at some point in the future, or you're already taking Social Security, most years you will get a COLA adjustments from the government, right? Meaning you get a pay raise. That's math. So Income Lab will automatically, once you have an implemented plan, it'll automatically go in and make that adjustment to your plan. It will calculate the COLA adjustment, and you can have a good conversations with the clients around that. Again, I will tell you, I just spoke to Mike, who is the professor at Columbia. He actually has his own RIA.
That's not me, guys. Different Mike.
Different Mike, that's right. Mike Kafakota, not Mike Weinberger. He just met with a client and closed a $7 million case on this. This is what people want to talk about. When we do, we work with a marketing agency. We spend a lot of money on digital marketing. And so when you go on Google, you have these search words, right? Like we want to talk to advisors like yourself that does retirement income planning. So we do, retirement income planning software for advisors, and the Google searches there, we can pay for those. And I'm just throwing out numbers here, but maybe there's like 2,000 advisors that search for that over the last month. If you do Social Security and advisors, that's probably 200,000 people. Right? People want to talk about Social Security. This matters to them. And people generally want to be able to file today. You can have a very differentiated conversation with clients, and it's one they want to have. And it, for most people, is more important than anything you can do to their asset allocation or anything else. They want to know what is the optimal way to file the Social Security. Do you have a Social Security optimizer? And that is exactly what you have here.
All right. So with that, if there's other questions, reach out to me. I've already gotten some emails. People had to jump on pricing. So here's the pricing. There's a first year cost and an after year one cost. So first year cost for our advisors is $999 a year per advisor. Support staff is $850 a year per user. Now that is a reduction, significant reduction. I know street pricing is about $1,700, a little bit more than that for an advisor a year. So there's a big reduction there. After year one, it's $1,300 a year per advisor. The support staff still $850 a year per advisor. So we're getting a pretty good discount, especially for that first year from Johnny and his team. Know that, and this is one of the things we talked about during the IPW event. For any of you that were at any of our seminar boot camps, you'll know like Daryl Bryant uses specific software. Everyone's got software out there. You got to find the one that makes you unique. This is really the second time I've seen this. This is a unique software. We have a few on the shelf. You got to find what works for you, what works for your sales process. But this is definitely a beneficial software that I've seen. To repeat the year one cost. Yeah, the year one cost is $999 per advisor. And then that goes up to $1,300 a year per advisor after that.
Mike, I want to just very much want to invite everybody to come and get a personal demo here at Income Lab. If you want to book a personal demo, go to our website, which is incomelab.io. Again, incomelab.io. Would love to host all of you for a personal demo so you can get to ask your questions live.
Hey, last question to Johnny. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off during the post here, but that pricing that I just gave everyone, is that billed annually or is there a monthly billing option?
It is billed annual, yes.
Great. So there's your answer. Pay it up front after you get all this AUM revenue coming in, and with anything, it's revenue generating. That's the key. So if you see this as a revenue generator, then it's definitely something to look at.
Well, thank you everyone for your time, and look forward to hopefully teaming up with you to grow your businesses. So,
thank you, Johnny. Thanks everyone for your time. Reach out if you have any additional questions, or if you want to get signed up, we can get that going. Thanks, everybody.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Mike. Take care.